My name is Trey. I live in Samuelsson, New Jersey, and I'm 6.
My name is Ryan. I live in DC and I'm 3 years old.
Hi, my name is Neve. I live in Houston, Texas, and I am 10 years old.
Hi, my name's Azai, and I live in Houston, Texas, and I'm 11 years old. Juneteenth is important to me because we are Black and Black Lives Matter.
We celebrate the end of slavery.
Hello.
Because our people were freed on that day.
Well, I don't know how to fight.
Juneteenth is important to me and my family because Black freedom is important and so is Black history.
Fireworks, and fireworks. And maybe barbecue. Yes, barbecue.
Our family honors Juneteenth by supporting Black-owned businesses and going to Black-owned restaurants.
I don't know how to say it.
I don't know. But I know that it's the end of people being told what they can do and cannot do.
Black people were freed a whole year after Independence Day in the United States.
This day is very, very important and that they should learn the history behind it.
Special shout out to Nubia. I'm all at peace and whatnot. If you are interested in learning more, check out their website at kidsjamwith2ms.com. So for any newcomers, thank you on behalf of Bold for joining us today as we reclaim our time for Juneteenth. So up next, in a 1-hour live stream special called Juneteenth Soul of America, thought leaders in the Black American community will discuss the meaning of freedom, the importance of financial equity, and the need for reform. We will also highlight Black joy, mental wellness, and self-care, as well as the nuances of intersectionality and how it impacts our experiences, and so much more. Hosted by Bold Global Lead Marquise Francis, hope you enjoy the special programming powered by Yahoo.
Hello and welcome to Yahoo's special presentation of Juneteenth, the Soul of America. I'm Marquise Francis, and over the course of the next hour, we will explore the importance of Juneteenth, the triumphs and challenges facing the Black community in policing and politics, and how despite all of this, the Black community continues to persevere through insurmountable obstacles. But first, let's hear from Jeffrey Robinson from the Who We Are Project, brought to us by Yahoo Allyship Pledge partners Kindred and Goodworks, about why we celebrate Juneteenth.
To understand Juneteenth, I think you have to go back to 1862. Abraham Lincoln passed the Compensated Emancipation Act, where he ended up paying over $1 million to slave owners for the emancipated people that were going to be freed under the Emancipation Proclamation in the Washington, D.C. area. So while Lincoln announced the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, and while the Civil War ended in April of 1865, it wasn't until June that this announcement was made in Texas, when Major General Gordon Granger went to Galveston, Texas, and announced that all enslaved people were now free. This date was a hallmark in the Black struggle for liberation and freedom in this country. And we know that slavery didn't end in 1865, but legally and formally, this was a huge victory. Barbecues is one way that Juneteenth is celebrated. family gatherings, community gatherings. There are parades. There is a libation ceremony that's carried on in many places where water is poured on the ground and a request is made of our ancestors to help guide us in the struggle for liberation going forward. H.R. 40 is the most significant delivery on the promise of Juneteenth that we could fashion in America at this point in our history. You can support H.R. 40, the bill to create a commission to study reparations for slavery and the vestiges of slavery that came after 1865. H.R. 40 is about reparations for those damages. What you do on June 19th is significant, but what you do the other 364 days of the year is much more important.
Joining us now to discuss Juneteenth further and what it means to the Black community is rapper and businessman Killer Mike and Spelman College economics professor Sonny Holmes. Thank you both for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. To start, Sonny, I'll start with you. When you think about all the things going on right now, anti-voting legislation, the debate on critical race theory, Black lives being over-policed, in your own words, why is knowing your roots now more important than ever before?
Excellent question. I think that it's extremely important now because we do not want to reinvent the wheel that has driven America ever since it first stood up. And so there are so many lessons from history. There are so many lessons from our national and cultural behavior that we can learn from, such that we need to be aware of the obstacles that we face as a people today. So in terms of, for example, voting rights, we know that Juneteenth and the emancipation was roughly about 160 years ago. And here we are still focused on this idea of having a voice in politics and having fair and equal representation in our democracy. And so by looking over America's past, by studying America's history, by being very accountable about the decisions that America and Americans have made, that really helps to position us to not go back from whence we've come from. So that means that there needs to be a total effort of accountability. There needs to be an effort of education because America has been indoctrinated on separation, on power imbalances. And we need to be able to address that, all of us as Americans, in order to move forward and to progress.
Thank you for that. And Mike, turning to you, I mean, Juneteenth is a celebration of freedom, but it's also the acknowledgement of the evils of slaveries and the separation, ripping Black people from Africa and forcing them to come to a foreign land. You speak at length about the importance of education and building up the Black community and Black culture. What do you feel like is the significance of the Black family despite centuries of trying to rip the Black family apart?
Well, there's an old saying that it takes a village to raise a child, and even in the depths of slavery, we have maintained a family. For people that are not familiar, you know, there were people who were enslaved that bought themselves out of slavery. There were people that bought their families out of slavery. That to me says they had a rudimentary understanding of economics. They understood that my labor is worth something, and everybody was not a member of the master class. You had poor farmers that might have a farm next to your plantation. You could rent yourself to them. You split the difference with your owner. You eventually bought yourself into freedom, and sometimes your wife and children as well. So I'd like to start to rewrite that narrative that these people are not just enslaved people that were beasts. They were intelligent. They understood their worth. They brokered their worth, and they pushed back every step of the way. I'm proud to be a member of the people that were brought here wrongfully, but found a way. My family personally landed in Tuskegee, Alabama. My great-grandparents were the children of slaves. They became sharecroppers. They bought 25 acres in Tuskegee, Alabama. Those 25 acres still belong to my family today, and we're not in the habit of selling property. My wife is from the Geechee and Gullah port of Savannah, and her family is right across from Hilton Head, from another, a strong Black Southern family. So for me, a lot of wrongs have been done, but I don't want to overlook the victories of the Blackman family, which was mine, the Ford family, which is my wife's. A lot of us has managed to forge away, and 54% of us on the South right now, what I would challenge Black people to do with the right now, besides know your history, right? If you're in Atlanta, get to the Shrine of the Black Madonna, get to Mendu Bookstore, get around some organizations that make sure you and your children know our history. Let's have our own version of Saturday school, our own Montessori schools, where we teach, it doesn't have to be named fancy like critical race theory. We just call it what it is, the truth. The truth is the first person that died on behalf of the American Revolution was a black man named Crispus Attucks. The truth is that every step of the way you have pushed back against slavery. When you worked in the kitchens, if they beat you too bad or they hurt somebody in your family, you ground up glass and you put it in their children's food. That's really what happened on plantations. On plantations, there was this delicate balance of, I understand that I'm captive here, but you are not going to abuse me to the point where all I am is a suffering beast. So we have been noble. We have been dignified. We have participated in capitalism once we got our freedom in a successful way, and I think we can again. I just want to say to the people that are today, while they're debating critical race theory, let's make sure that we know that Egyptians were black and Kemet and Kush preceded Greece, that the kingdom of Mansa Musa and Mali taught the Greeks what they know. Let's make sure that our kids know that the Greek gods are based on African orishas. Let's make sure that we watch YouTube and watch John Henry Clark with our children and Dr. Asa Hilliard and Dr. Ben and Chanta Diop. Let's go through a metamorphosis of self-education over the next 10, 20 years and look at the confident, strong, brilliant children you'll put out on the other side. And while we're doing that, let's take care of ourselves and do things like buy houses in the west side of Atlanta. Let's make sure those houses that are around the AU Center are still owned by us. Let's make sure we support black business so that if we're all doing a little, no one of us will have to do a lot.
Thank you for all of that. And in terms of supporting black business, I know you're also one of the founders of the Greenwood Bank, and I would love for you to share why you felt like that was important, something necessary to start, especially when it comes to the value of the black dollar.
Whether it was the Freedmen's Bank 150 years ago, or whether it was Citizens Trust Bank that's been around for 100 years now, whether it's black credit unions, black people need to control their dollar. We don't have control of our dollar in the capitalistic system, which means that a lot of times we don't have control of the resources around us. A lot of times, if you look at people who vote less but use their dollar to vote, they're able to get bills passed faster. If you look at that Asian hate crime bill, that bill is passed for a group of people that don't vote as much as you do, but they lend their dollars to political campaigns. And if we don't have the dollars they do, what you do have is on the ground voting and on a local level. So what I would encourage us to do is on a very local level, let's get together in our living rooms and our kitchens. Let's talk about candidates we can support. Let's talk about candidates that are going to give us or deliver something. Let's talk about candidates that are going to make city business and municipality businesses go to the contractors that we would like to see them go with. I think that voting is important, but I think that voting coupled with economic importance should be our priority right now. We should not only be voting to get people in office that we think are going to be nice to us, we should be voting to get people in the office that are going to do much like Maynard Jackson and make sure city contracts go to people who look like you so that you can be employing people that look like you, so you can build neighborhoods like the historic West End, the Collier Heights, and the west side of Atlanta, and you can fortify yourselves and be a participating part of this democracy in an organized way as a neighborhood in the same way Greektown is, Little Odessa is, Chinatown, Koreatown, and other towns and that reflect the spirit of individuals through group economics, group voting.
Absolutely. So basically, we need to ensure that we're voting collectively and also couple that with economic prowess to continue to build up.
No one before the other. Take care of your money. Your money is every day. Your voting happens every 2 and 4 years. But having an economist on here, the dollar you save today is going to save your butt tomorrow. The vote that you plot out the day out, for the next election is going to save you and are going to do well. But let's make sure, black people, that we're taking care of our coin. If we're taking care of our coin, you can fund the type of local progressive politicians you wish to see. If you're not taking care of your coin, then the politicians are going to continue to be prostitutes to the corporations that buy them.
Absolutely. And coming up, we'll take a look at financial wellness within the black community with a former NFL athlete turned serial entrepreneur, and Sunny is going to be sticking around. So thank you, and we're coming up with so much more.
You might have noticed a little bit of a different lineup. This is a new combination for us and a new time. This week, we're going to be kicking off some changes in our programming.
We're in a critical period right now with record cases.
We want public health measures to be the gateway to safely and prudently opening up the economy again.
My advice to any entrepreneur out there is you got to pivot, man.
In this land of opportunity, anything is possible.
It all comes down to business economics and safety.
We can do this. I'm absolutely convinced.
We're here in Jackson Hole sitting down with Kansas City Fed President Esther George.
So I think the Federal Reserve's commitment has been to being as transparent as they can. the low inflation is a real challenge for us as central bankers.
It shows that we're data dependent, and it shows that we're sensitive to what's going on in the macroeconomic environment.
We certainly should be able to communicate what our policy is.
Are you seeing this? Your family will fall in love with The Croods: A New Age. 95% on Rotten Tomatoes. This is amazing. What do we do? What do we say to each other? What's happening to our voices? Why are our voices getting so high? It's perfect family fun. You see that wall? Yeah. You want to jump it? Yeah. The Croods: A New Age.
Rent or own the latest movies with Verizon Fios On Demand.
I can save today, but you can save the world.
One day, you'll become all that you dream of and more. And everything will be different. This world is not ready for all that you will do.
The world needs you.
Wonder Woman 1984.
Rent or own the latest movies with Verizon Fios On Demand.
Welcome back to Juneteenth, the soul of America. Economic inequality has long been an issue in the U.S. So the question is, what can economics do to achieve racial equality? Does it start with reparations, easy access to loans, or way before that with education? Joining me now is former NFL player and businessman Warrick Dunn and Spelman professor Sonny Holmes. Thank you both for being here with me today.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Great. So Warrick, I want to start with you. Personally, I've seen an uptick in Black financial curiosity with so much available online. I'm seeing people post memes and tweets about they're buying this stock and that stock. But I also understand this is not for everyone. So given the low barriers of entry into the stock market and investing and just figuring out ways to build financial capital for the Black community, what do you make of this trend?
Well, I just think the younger generation are really focused on how can they make a quick dollar. The focus should be, what is my long-term goal? And if you can get individuals to think more about spending money on need instead of the things that they want, we can accomplish that. With me, my charity, Work Done Charities, we have a program called Count on Your Future, a financial literacy program where we really try to go out and educate individuals on not just checks and balances, but saving money. I think a lot of times we want to just spend and not necessarily think about what we're spending the money on. So we try to really help individuals by providing assistance that they have access to a financial advisor, and we will actually support them and give them $500 if they go and invest $500. So we really try to incentivize them to do that, but we're also now trying to really go after the kids. We have a kids financial literacy program, Count on Your Future as well, that we're trying to educate them on smart money management early on in life. We have to start early, and a lot of it is education. People sometimes don't really understand the steps they have to take to get to that level. And a lot of times it's about relationships in the South. Up North, it's a little bit different. But if you build the right relationships and people can help point you in the right direction, you have to do your part. And home ownership is a part of that. The quickest way to grow wealth in this country is through home ownership. So my Homes for the Holidays program, really, we're trying to help individuals accomplish the American dream of home ownership. So it's the quickest way to grow wealth. So we're really just trying to tackle a lot of these issues that we deal with in our communities.
Thank you for that. And Sonny, I want to bring you in. The reality is stopping racism is profitable. The more representation your workplace has or your school board, whatever it is, the better. If the wage, education, housing, and investment gap were actually closed 20 years ago, it would have translated to $16 trillion today. And if it were closed today, over the next 5 years, it would translate to $5 trillion. Why do you feel like the country is so resistant to actually having Black people in positions of power and making wealth?
We have a long history of discrimination and exploitation that we're overcoming, and that has been the case for generations. Americans have long been indoctrinated and perhaps even inebriated off of the power imbalance. And in a different time period, that power imbalance was more profitable. Today, we know that it is not. We know that racism, discrimination, exploitation, economic exploitation in particular, holds all of the country back when we're holding back particular communities. And so we have to really push back against our history of exploitation and of separating people based on their race, their nationality, and other qualifiers in order to become and to reach those targets that we'd like to see economically, such as closing the wage gap, closing the wealth gap, and having more people of color that are being included in and participating in the stock market, that are represented in other facets of our society that show that we are not only pushing towards racial progress, but also towards economic progress as well. And in economics, we like to talk about how we are optimizing, how we're making things better for everyone. And in truth, in order for America to be a more progressive country, we need to focus on how we can improve the conditions, the economic conditions for the least of us.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. And Warrick, I want to come back to you because I think as a pro athlete, oftentimes the Black athletes kind of often get a brunt of criticism necessarily when the Black community is going through something. A lot of people are saying, hey, well, Black athletes and entertainers, they have all this money. Why are they not doing more? We also know there's a drastic inequality gap for Black Americans. And in 2018, the median Black household earned just 59 cents for every dollar of income that a median white household earned. So obviously, I think with your philanthropy and your organization, you've been doing a lot. And as a businessman, I'm just curious, when you hear numbers like this, what comes to mind?
Well, it's disappointing. You know, an athlete is not required to want to be a philanthropist and give back. You know, that has to be an internal thing. For myself, I understand the importance. I grew up in a poor community. You know, I don't come from a lot, but at the same time, I understand what the struggle is and I understand what people's issues are. And if we had more individuals that really focus more on, okay, I'm living a good lifestyle, how can I bring other people along? And you have to, again, educate, bring people along with you along the journey so that they're a part of your growth, they're a part of the process, they're part of the growth of the economy overall. If you can spread the wealth, I think you have opportunity to educate more people, but get more people involved in your cause and what you're doing. And, you know, for me, I'm trying to, include a lot of individuals in being part and getting back and giving back in their community. I'm trying to include other individuals to do their part. And nothing is for free. You know, you have to do things on your own to earn this assistance, but you have to have someone there willing to help and help push you down the road.
Absolutely. And Sonny, Warrick talked about building Black wealth within the Black community starts with home ownership. But the reality also is that right now, Black Americans rank near the bottom of home equity. And we know this is a cycle spanning from slavery. So my question is, can Black Americans achieve economic equality without reparations?
My answer to that is going to be no. The generational harm that has been impacted on Black Americans, those that are descended from the enslaved and otherwise, are going to require generational solutions. It's going to require government intervention for such. On its own, or the private sector, we will not be able to bridge the wealth inequality, wage inequality, housing inequality gaps, because it was laws that made that discrimination possible. So we're going to need some legal intervention in order to direct policies that are going to make a more equitable playing field for all people. In terms of reparations, I think that's a very broad word for how those policies will manifest themselves in terms of the outcomes. Many times when we think about reparations, we think of cash. But if this is a generational problem, which requires a generational solution, then cash is probably not going to be the only or even the best answer. If there are gaps in housing and in wealth and in opportunities for not only acquiring jobs, but also job mobility, then yes, we need more legislation that is going to provide space for Black people, descendants of the enslaved, to make right those harms from the past. And so the way that those reparations may manifest themselves could be in the form of cash payments, could be in the form of educational credits, health credits, enterprise credits for business owners, and more incentives for participating in the stock and the bond markets, real estate, and so forth. And so we need to be very broad and use our imagination, but also be very intentional in addressing those generational harms with long-term solutions.
That's great. And so definitely what I'm learning is that you need to have generational solutions for generational problems. Building Black wealth starts with Black home ownership, and it starts with the individual in terms of making sure they give back to the Black community or themselves and their family and those around them. So I want to thank both of you, Warrick and Sunny, for joining us in this segment. Coming up, we'll discuss the work others have done in pushing the Black community forward, especially when it comes to politics.
Who are these vagabonds, and what have they done with my children?
I'm Peter Pan. And I'm Alice from Wonderland.
We can all use a little extra courage now and then.
It's not time to grow up.
Come Away, rated PG.
Rent or own the latest movies with Verizon Fios On Demand.
We are trying to move toward this beautiful vision of justice together.
Be unapologetic of the impact and the power that you have.
I don't want to teach women how to cook. I don't want to teach women how to bake. I want to teach them how to lead.
It's gonna take all of it, everything in you, to keep going.
Hey, people, we are just getting started.
Live pictures from the floor of the New York Stock Exchange.
Let's take a look at stocks.
We have gone positive on the indices.
Let's bring in the CEO of Moderna, Starbucks CEO,
UPS CEO,
Senator Sherrod Brown.
I always look forward to doing this interview.
You've probably seen the headlines before.
I want to get to some breaking news. Robinhood filed confidentially to go public.
Elon tweeting Tesla suspended vehicle purchases using Bitcoin.
We are going to take the lead on engineering a more accountable experience.
Keep watching what happens on Yahoo Finance Live.
Welcome back to Juneteenth, the soul of America. Representation in politics has steadily increased over the last few years, and in the past 10 years specifically, we've seen nearly a 64% increase in representation, but that's still not enough. Joining us now to discuss is activist Ashlee Marie Preston and community strategist Jamal Green. Thank you both for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Great. So Jamal, just start with you. At just 22 years old a few years back, you were the youngest person to run for mayor in Chicago. Why did you make this move, and why is it important for young people to become politically active?
Yeah, no, this is the time for our generation, especially millennials, to step up and start to take these seats from those who've been sitting in them and being corrupt for so many years. Here in Chicago, we had a mayor who covered up the murder of Laquan McDonald, who was shot 16 times. A mayor who it got so bad that he just resigned and from running in the next election, and now he gets an ambassadorship to Japan, Rahm Emanuel. And at the time, it was important for us to have a voice from these communities. Right here in the city of Chicago, we've never had a mayor from our neighborhoods who really understand our neighborhoods and had a chance to really put forth an agenda for our neighborhood since Harold Washington. And so it was important for me to step up as someone who understood crime and understood what was going on in these neighborhoods to say what needs to happen so that we can progress urban communities. And all young people around the country should be looking on how to organize or how to get in these seats. It's time for us to take that torch.
Absolutely. And Ashlee, bringing you in as the first trans woman to become editor-in-chief of a national publication, Wear Your Voice magazine, beyond your glasses, you're literally dripping in representation. So what does it mean to you to be a young person who people look up to? And what would you say to young people who haven't found their voice?
I think ultimately there are different ways of garnering representation. So even though I was the first trans editor-in-chief of a national publication, one of the more prouder moments was that I'm the first openly trans person to run for office in the state of California. And that's important because I'm trying to dismantle this false notion that the trans community, more specifically Black trans women, are only invested in LGBTQ issues because my Blackness is just as much a threat to my life as anything else.
Absolutely. And I'm curious, what were some of the experience that you've had, Ashlee, when you were running? And do you think the country is in a better place today than it was when you ran?
Unfortunately not. In fact, last year was the deadliest year on record for the transgender community. There were 40 plus people who were murdered. And also, I think the reality for many of us is that transphobia and anti-Blackness are not necessarily partisan issues. They're not branded to the left or the right, but they exist in both spaces. And so while I ran for office at that time, you would think in California people would be more open-minded to it, especially since we just saw Danica Roem have a win in Virginia, but that was not the case. I had a lot of obstacles because a lot of the politicians do their campaigning in faith-based communities. We know how a lot of faith-based communities feel about members of the LGBTQIA plus community. We also know that there is a lot of socioeconomic disparity within the trans community. On a national average, we make less than $10,000 a year. And so the people who would truly believe in my capacity to push policies and legislation that actually sets them up to thrive, they don't have the resources to support my campaign, which is why a large chunk of my platform was about removing money from politics because it makes it an unlevel playing field.
And Jamal, turning to you, a lot of the things that Ashlee mentioned, violence and political activism are things that are pretty much rife throughout Chicago. Whether you're looking at the news or you're watching the television show The Chi, I think it represents a little bit of what Chicago is like. But being, as you mentioned, a millennial and as a young person, how do you get particularly young Black men and women and all of the LGBT community active in something that they feel like they can't see themselves?
Yeah, that's the hardest thing, but it's about representation. That's why you have folks like Ashlee, folks like me who step up and say, we're going to campaign and get these folks active. When we ran, and I'm sure Ashlee, can definitely relate. When we ran our campaigns, all of those folks who usually don't vote were saying, yes, I'm coming out to vote just for you. And so it takes representation of those communities who are unheard, of those folks who feel unheard, for us to step up, move forward policies that usually mainstream wouldn't even know about because they don't have people like us running for office. So it takes representation. It takes bold policies that really matter, which is why I was a surrogate for Bernie Sanders. And even in Chicago, I had many bold policies on how to progress this city that young people really tied to, whether it was around wage or job creation or housing or even police and how to hold them accountable and spend less money on police misconduct cases. There are so many policies that we move forward that young people stepped up and said, this is the campaign that I can surround around. And without folks like me in the race, you'll have young people sitting at home saying, I don't really care who wins. So definitely needs more representation in campaigns.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jamal. Jamal and Ashlee, thank you both for joining us. Parenting has taken on a new challenge. We're going to talk about that and dive into it with our next panel up next. Please stay with us.
Yahoo Plus Tech is an all-new way to set up, sync, support, and protect your eligible home tech, all under one simple plan. Cracks, spills, and mechanical failures? You're covered. For all your other tech issues, Asurian experts are here for you 24/7 to solve problems and help you do more with tech, like secure your home network, understand parental controls, or choose the right streaming device. We can even help you decide what to buy next based on your exact needs. With Yahoo Plus Tech, you can leave your tech troubles at the door.
Welcome to A Time for Change.
We invite you to join us each week to assess how to create sustainable change.
If you believe the country is in the wrong direction, then your option is to vote for change.
It's really about raising awareness for how important it is to have diversity and to have different voices in the room.
We are literally rewriting the code.
We just have to make our case, keep pushing.
There's a lot of stories to be told.
This is Yahoo Finance Plus. Trade like it's not your first rodeo. Dive deeper with advanced analytics. Trade smarter with in-depth research reports and unique data. Make confident moves and grab your portfolio by the horns with Yahoo Finance Plus.
Live pictures from the floor of the New York Stock Exchange.
Let's take a look at stocks.
We have gone positive on the indices.
Let's bring in the CEO of Moderna, Starbucks CEO,
UPS CEO,
Senator Sherrod Brown.
I always look forward to doing this interview.
You've probably seen the headlines before.
I want to get to some breaking news. Robinhood filed confidentially to go public.
Elon tweeting Tesla suspended vehicle purchases using Bitcoin.
We are going to take the lead on engineering a more accountable experience.
Keep watching what happens on Yahoo Finance Live.
Welcome back to Juneteenth, the soul of America. The reality is parenting is hard, but in the Black community, there are different conversations happening around the dinner table. Joining us now is actress Tia Mowry, co-founder of Sugarberry and president of Laugh Out Loud, Ty Randolph, and activist Chris Stewart. Thank you all for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
Great. Tia, just to start with you, you are very vocal about family, and the importance of it, and people love you for that. So my question is, how young is too young to talk about race and race dynamics with your children, in your opinion?
In my opinion, I don't think it's ever too young to talk about race. You know, I want my son or my daughter to be equipped when they go out into the world. I mean, the playground can be fun, but then at times it cannot be so fun. And unfortunately, I've experienced racism at a young age, and my son experienced, hate at a young age. And so I feel that the more I equip him with knowledge, I believe knowledge is power. I feel better about him, being able to stand up for himself when he's out in the real world.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And Chris, bringing you into this, discipline is something that is innate within the Black community, whether it's a butt whooping or a slap on the wrist. But some of these tactics have also come under scrutiny, particularly in mainstream media or just out there in the ethos. So how do you balance that freedom of exploration and then also messing with a child and these hardline rules of punishment? The reason why I asked that, I'm thinking of being on the subway and seeing a little white young boy or girl, and they're looking out the window and their parents are letting them be free. But then I see a Black kid or girl do that and they get smacked down. So how do you balance those two ideas?
Yeah, I don't even think it should be a balance. I just think we should be doing our very best to raise free children. And I think sometimes we can't be the ones that are robbing Black children of their right to be free. Our number one job as parents is to create the environments that they need to thrive intellectually, to thrive spiritually and physically. That's just like the first job of us as parents. Oftentimes we are stressed. We've been handed down things from generation to generation in terms of how we handle our children and how we deal with their children, but it never stops us. There's nothing stopping us from actually rethinking it. especially in the world that we are in that punishes Black children for being children, adultifies them way too early, takes away from them and steals the joy of childhood from them in so many ways. As parents, we just have to be like fierce defenders of their joy, their ability to learn and laugh, the ability to create environments where they thrive. We can't raise another generation of Black children that aren't allowed to be free and to just be children. So I know I dodged the whole spank or no spank debate there, but I just wanted to go for the positive part.
Yes, no, I definitely understand that. And Ty, bringing you into this, as of 2019, there were nearly 2.7 million Black children in America. What makes raising Black children today different than what it was maybe years ago, 10, 20 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're all so better resourced right now, right? Like I think that concept of, it takes a village to raise a child. And one of the things we try to do at Sugar Berry is really expand that village. So I think our village has expanded. But there's some really unique dynamics facing, sort of Black families and Black moms in particular. Black women are one of the fastest growing segments of advanced degree, or one of the fastest growing segments of advanced degree holders, one of the fastest growing segments of entrepreneurs. Also, statistically more likely to be single parents, statistically more likely to be breadwinners. And so I think, the Black mom finds herself at this sort of intersection of tremendous opportunity, but also tremendous weight. I think as we are thinking about just children in general and how they navigate through the world in this particular, in this really interesting context, sort of globally, we're experiencing things from a pandemic level that we never have, like digitally and communications wise. There's this sort of influx and overwhelm of information. And so I actually think that while we're better resourced, parenting is a more complex proposition than it ever has been before, particularly, I would say for Black moms.
So one of the things I heard you say, Ty, is that Black women do everything. And so one time for Black women, because you guys are all dynamic, and Black moms particularly, you all are amazing as well. Chris, no shade to you. But Tia, going back to you, you talked about your daughter and son. I'm just curious, how do the conversations differ, if at all, between your son and daughter? Because obviously I think the way in which you show up in this world is going to be different, whereas maybe your Black son is going to be seen as a threat when it comes to certain people in a different way than maybe your daughter will. But I'm curious, are your conversations different? Are they the same? How have those gone?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. Our conversations are very different. With my daughter, I'm more focused on just celebrating her beauty, celebrating her coils, celebrating, her, and, constantly telling her, you are smart, you are beautiful, you can be anything that you want to be. Yes, I do tell my son, I'm always giving him affirmations and, telling him that he's handsome and telling him that he's smart as well. But you had mentioned it about there is, it's a realistic issue that I have to, tell my son that unfortunately there are people out there that would treat him differently because of the color of his skin. I am having the conversations with him that when he starts driving, you need to make sure that you keep your hands at 10 and 2, meaning on the steering wheel. So, of course, nothing crazy happens. I'm just making sure that, he's aware of his environment, his surroundings, and how he will be treated just because of the color of his skin. So yes, the conversations are, different in that perspective or in that sense.
Absolutely. And Ty, you talked a little bit about Sugar Berry, but I'm just curious, what role do you think media plays when it comes to developing young people's minds, and particularly young Black minds?
Oh my God, I think representation is so important for all of us, right? We all want to see ourselves reflected in the world. We all want to see ourselves called to higher opportunities. And, so often media creates a world much more vast than we're able to, experience on a day-to-day basis. And so I think it's so critical. I often talk about and while there's been this influx in sort of media, whether it's children's books and cartoons sort of featuring Black and brown children, so often those conversations are centered on their race. And my son, who's 3, when we were out looking for children's books for him when he was born, what I realized is so much of it focused on his Blackness. And it's beautiful. I celebrate that, right? Like we lean into that, but also it's like he just wants to, where are the Black kids like being superheroes and playing with dinosaurs, and that idea of allowing them agency and freedom the way that any child is enabled, so critical, because otherwise it's a weight that no child should have to wear. And the idea of joy and beauty without the white gaze or any patriarchal gaze or any other gaze is revolutionary. I think the more that we can afford our children that, sort of the farther they can go and the freer they will be.
Absolutely. And Chris, I want to do one more question because you end on a positive note. What's your kind of one message to Black men, to young Black men, to give them hope about the future with so much negativity out there?
Before I jump on that, I just really want to say what Ty just said so resonates with me, and Tia, I think, plays this big role too in my life in this way. I'm going into my 4th decade as a parent, as a Black parent of young Black children, boys and a girl. And when it comes to media selection, the number of stories that we have that reflect us, the type of just ruthless controlling of the media that we intake is an additional kind of level of parenting for Black parents, for parents of color. To find stories, I've seen them over time change the things we can buy for our kids. Everything, like when we saw Doc McStuffins come up and we saw Dora the Explorer come up, it was like revelatory in some ways to have characters that our kids can see that isn't about struggle and isn't just about trauma and isn't just about kind of like the so-called somebody's idea of a Black experience, but it was just kids being kids and kids being smart kids, being able to solve problems. And you're not just the sidekick, but you're the main story, the lead character. My oldest son is 30, and I think back to the early days of picking things out for him. Finding a lead character that was smart and intelligent, and could be funny and could be witty and all of those things was impossibly hard. And it's changing. I think people want to say that there's been a lot of progress. Great, I love progress, but we're still not there. Like I have a young daughter now. My oldest is 30, like I said. My youngest is 11, is 10, I should say, going to be 11 this year. And it's still kind of hard to find the right kind of representations, especially for girls, where they are smart, they're solving problems, they can be all the range of things, and it doesn't just have to be the struggle literature that we get so often get. So I'm sorry I didn't mean to go off track, with that, but I felt so moved to say it with this group specifically because I'm looking at 2 people who are actually playing a part in me as a parent, as a civilian. I thank you for your part in making that easier for my family. Really appreciate it. Now for fathers, I do have to hold it up and just say, I'm sick of us being invisible, man. Like I know so many great fathers every day who are waking up every day. They're sharing things with me across all my Facebook groups right now. Pictures of joy about the first cars and graduations and what they did for their baby boys and their baby girls. And they're lifting it up and we're supporting each other. And it just feels like the American media doesn't want to see us. It just feels like like we're invisible. And we have bumper stickers that say, start seeing motorcycles. We need bumper stickers that say, start seeing Black fathers, start seeing Black uncles, Black grandfathers, Black men, start seeing Black men, period. That's how I answer this question.
Absolutely. And thank you for that, Chris. And I think that's super necessary. And I think, of course, Black men definitely need to be visible. And I just love the point of making sure not only we can be funny, we can be witty, but we need to be those lead characters. And I think obviously Tia is exemplary of that, and Ty is doing her work, making sure that happens as well. So Tia, Chris, and Ty, thank you all for joining me on this panel. And coming up, we'll explore how food plays a part in the soul of Juneteenth and how stories are passed down through what we put on our tables with Marcus Samuelsson and Carla Hall.
You might might have noticed a little bit of a different lineup. This is a new combination for us and a new time.
This week, we're going to be kicking off some changes in our programming.
We're in a critical period right now with record cases.
We want public health measures to be the gateway to safely and prudently opening up the economy again.
My advice to any entrepreneur out there is you got to pivot, man.
In this land of opportunity, anything is possible.
It all comes down to business economics and safety.
We can do this. I'm absolutely convinced.
Yahoo and Made of Millions invite you to open up. Take a snapshot that fits your mood. Choose your filter, whatever you're feeling in this moment. Leave a personal message and watch your story take shape in an AR mosaic that connects you to a community of allies. Let's stand up for mental health. Share your state of mind at openuptogether.com.
I can save today, but you can save the world.
One day, you'll become all that you dream of and more. And everything will be different. This world is not ready for all that you will do.
The world needs you.
Wonder Woman 1984.
Rent or own the latest movies with Verizon Fios On Demand.
Morning.
What are you doing?
Isn't it obvious?
We're delivering live market coverage and offering expert analysis completely free.
We're helping you make sense of the markets from anywhere you are.
I get that, but what are you doing here?
Nice pajamas.
Really? I say pajamas.
Oh, pajamas, whichever.
Okay.
Yahoo Finance. Watch today on Channel 604.
Welcome to the show.
Let's make finance make sense.
Welcome back to Juneteenth, the soul of America. We are now joined by a dynamic duo of world-renowned chefs, Carla Hall and Marcus Samuelsson, whose delicious foods you can now find on Goldbelly, an online marketplace for regional and artisanal foods. But today, this dynamic duo is here to talk to us about the important role that food plays in celebrating Juneteenth. Carla, let's start with you. Right now, I'm watching this amazing new Netflix series, High on the Hog, and it's really opened my eyes to how African food has really been the gateway to a lot of the foods that we eat now in America. And it unlocks so much history. Can you please explain to our viewers why food plays such a vital role in celebrating Juneteenth and Black culture overall?
I think the more that you know about our culture, the more that you realize how much we contributed. I think, and it was actually Jessica Harris when I was talking about being the culinary ambassador at the African American Museum, and I learned about so much of our culture through food and how it's not just the South, it's the North, it's the West, it's the Creole coast. And if I could be inspired by that, everybody else could be inspired by that. So that also inspired my cookbook. And I think, just like you said, when you watched High on the Hog, you're like, oh my gosh, look at what my people contributed. And how proud were you to walk away from that show thinking, I want to know more. That is the power of food.
Absolutely. I mean, I walked away wanting to learn more. I wanted to go harder just for the ancestors. I went to the gym right after and did about 1,500 push-ups. But like I mentioned, just as a follow-up, you have something you're preparing for us. So do you mind talking a little bit about the yummy dish that you're kind of putting together and why you decided to make this for today?
Yes, so I am making a black-eyed pea salad, and I chose black-eyed peas specifically because they came from Africa, and you'll hear about all of the stories about okra seeds and black-eyed peas, and so I wanted to show off this dish as being something that's not only for New Year's, but also something that's perfect for a Juneteenth celebration, so I'm doing a salad, and I wanted to make it really fresh. So I have all of my celebration dishes, but it doesn't have to mean that everything is really fatty. And I think by adding something that isn't so, that's refreshing and vinegary, and it's a sit-and salad, which means that it can sit forever. Not forever, but it's not going to wilt. It's also, there's no mayonnaise in it. And so I think that it will be perfect for a picnic. So I just have canned black-eyed peas and I rinse them. And then I'm going to take some cherry tomatoes or grape tomatoes. And I have, just as a little trick, I have 2 tops to carry out. So I'm sure everybody was doing carry out in the last year. So you should have at least a couple of these. And then I'm going to sandwich my tomatoes between these 2 tops. I'm going to grab my knife, and then I just cut, just like that, easy peasy. My tomatoes are all sliced, and then they go into a bowl. So.
Wow. I feel like that was like a little bit of a TikTok DIY right there.
I know. Now, instead of 1,500 push-ups, you want to cut 1,500 grape tomatoes.
There you go. While you're cutting that, I'd love to bring Marcus into this. Because obviously, Marcus, you have a wealth of knowledge of food and obviously experience in the entrepreneur field, having your own restaurants and so much more. It's not just the food that has historical relevance, but the colors as well. Can you walk us through a bit what the colors for Juneteenth actually mean?
Sure. Well, first of all, I'm super excited to be here with you and with Carla. Anytime we can link celebration around the African-American experience, but also around the African diaspora, right? The more we learn about what we as Black people brought to American food, the more we can celebrate that. I just think that's a great opportunity that we can really take from this whole experience.
Absolutely.
In terms of colorism, whether it's Juneteenth or Freedom Day or Celebration Day, things like strawberries, red, things like hibiscus that has that more burgundy, almost like a wine color, right? The linkage with food. Carla, she's cooking, I'm eating, and I was thinking about today, one of the dishes that we happen to have on Gold Belly is our shrimp and grits. And one of the key ingredients there is okra. And okra is also one of those things that we now take for granted as an American ingredient, but also came to us from Africa.
Absolutely. I really love that. And Carla, going back to you, just because I know you're cooking up a storm over there, besides your savory and what I know is delicious black-eyed pea salad, and I'm a little jealous that I'm not there to try it myself, I'm just curious, are there any other common dishes or desserts that people would normally see as Juneteenth? And the reason why I ask that, because for so many people probably watching this special and just this year, they're finding out about Juneteenth for the first time. We just celebrated or remembered the 100th anniversary of the Tulsa Race Massacre. And so many people said, wow, I never knew. So people are just now coming around to what Juneteenth actually is. So can you share some other common dishes or desserts celebrated?
Well, what I love is that you're talking about history that so many people didn't know about. People may say, oh, what was a historical dish for Juneteenth? And just in critically thinking, I want to say, are we eating historical dishes for July 4th? Hamburgers and hot dogs. I mean, were our forefathers eating that? No. So I think for me, Juneteenth is about the dishes that are represented as soul food. So I have black-eyed peas, I have fried chicken, I've got cornbread, I've got collard greens, I've got mac and cheese, I've got cobbler bars. There may be a watermelon salad, because I think both strawberries and watermelon, because they're red. Not only that, when after the enslaved were emancipated, they were also found financial freedom in growing watermelons and strawberries. And watermelons represented hydration. If you couldn't trust the water, you could trust a piece of fruit. Those are the kinds of things that I think that people could look to make dishes. And you can make whatever you want to make, whatever you feel is your self-expression. But I think when you do it with an intention to celebrate with dishes that showcase our culture, that's when they become special.
That spread you made looks amazing. It's so colorful and it looks spectacular. But Marcus, tossing things over to you to wrap things up. I'm just curious, what inspires you today when you think about food in Black culture?
You have to first look back in order to kind of be in the present and look forward. There's a whole generation of young Black African-American chefs right now that are completely changing our industry. So it's a very, very, very exciting time because it's much more open. And the history of American food can never be told without telling the Black tale as well, because we have contributed so much in terms of label, history, and deliciousness. And I think it's incredible that it's late, but finally we're here at this moment where we can share it. And just like we learned about turkey on Thanksgiving, why couldn't Juneteenth become this day where not just African-American families in America are cooking and understanding the history and learning the history through food? What would be a more delicious way than go to a cookout on June 19th and really understand why you're here, getting the music, getting the foods, and getting the celebration. I can't imagine anything better than that. And I feel really proud and excited to be part of it. And, it wouldn't have happened without people like Carla and so many other great chefs that are, pushing this moment forward.
And Marcus, I'm so glad that you talked about it's not just for the Black community, it's for everybody, because I think Juneteenth was the original, when you talk about all for one and one for all, right? Black Lives Matter. Juneteenth was the first one, because until those people were free, none of us were free, right? That was the original Black Lives Matter.
I wish we had more time. So much to cover in such little time. Marcus, you gave us that historical perspective, and Carla, you actually made us food live. I just want to thank both of you for coming on and joining this special, sharing your wealth of culinary and historical knowledge with all of us. And thank you, all of you watching, for joining us for this important look at the issues facing the Black community today and why it's important to not forget about our history, but also honor it, remember it, and celebrate it. For myself and all of us here at Yahoo, thank you for watching and happy Juneteenth.
Yahoo Plus Tech is an all-new way to set up, sync, support, and protect your eligible home tech, all under one simple plan. Cracks, spills, and mechanical failures? You're covered. For all your other tech issues, Asurian experts are here for you 24/7 to solve problems and help you do more with tech, like secure your home network, understand parental controls, or choose the right streaming device. We can even help you decide what to buy next based on your exact needs. With Yahoo Plus Tech, you can leave your tech troubles at the door.
This is Yahoo Finance Plus. Trade like it's not your first rodeo. Dive deeper with advanced analytics. Trade smarter with in-depth research reports and unique data. Make confident moves and grab your portfolio by the horns with Yahoo Finance Plus.
We're here in Jackson Hole sitting down with Kansas City Fed President Esther George.
So I think the Federal Reserve's commitment has been to being as transparent as they can.
The low inflation is a real challenge for us as central bankers.
It shows that we're data dependent, and it shows that we're sensitive to what's going on in the macroeconomic environment.
We certainly should be able to communicate what our policy is.
Welcome to A Time for Change. We invite you to join us each week to assess how to create sustainable change.
If you believe the country is in the wrong direction, then your option is to vote for change.
It's really about raising awareness for how important it is to have diversity and to have different voices in the room.
We are literally rewriting the code.
We just have to make our case, keep pushing.
There's a lot of stories to be told.
Plug in your speakers, invite your family, invite your friends, invite your loved ones as we celebrate the ending to our Juneteenth celebration with the one and the only DJ Envy,